Wow. Okay, Tennessee Titans. I see you. Tighten up. L'Jarius Sneed will be a Tennessee Titan in 2024 and beyond. As you guys can notice, I just got home and I didn't even take my jacket off. I'm so excited to talk about this trade. L'Jarius Sneed has been dealt on the franchise tag from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Tennessee Titans for a 2025, note, 2025, not 2024, third round selection and a swap of 7th round picks. Okay, I guess that's the deal. Really? Kansas City, that's all you got? That's all you got for L'Jarius Sneed? Now, a lot of you out there probably don't know how good L'Jarius Sneed is, but let me tell you something. L'Jarius Sneed is arguably the best corner in the NFL. Okay? He is that good. At least he was last year. He's 27 years old, and he's now being handsomely paid for 2024 and beyond at $19 million per year on a 4-year deal. That being said, that just puts him inside the top 5 or 6 corners in the NFL. When you're looking at contracts in the NFL for the cornerback position, yes, L'Jarius Sneed got a nice little contract within this deal for Tennessee. But $21 million for Jair Alexander is the top contract. Denzel Ward at $20 million. Jalen Ramsey at $20 million. And then you look at Sneed, Humphrey, Diggs, Lattimore, and Jalen Johnson are all being paid about the same amount of money. So, wow. Like, this is an absolute robbery, in my opinion, by the Tennessee Titans. You are getting a corner that is nasty in man-to-man coverage. He was arguably the MVP of one of the best defenses in the NFL and one of the best playoff defenses we've seen in modern history. They were really that good. They shut everybody down. And it was thanks to their corner play, the combination of L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie on the outside, to allow them to stack the box, to allow them to put resources into stopping the run. And without that tool, it takes away the Chiefs' greatest strength on defense, which makes them an entirely different unit, in my opinion. And they're going to have to replace one of the best man-to-man coverage corners in football, along with what he did for them in terms of disguising coverage, in terms of locking down number 1 receivers, in terms of being able to play zone, man, being able to play on the perimeter or in the nickel. He started his career in the nickel position where he was really, really good. He moved outside in recent seasons since the departure of Charvarius Ward, and he's been even better. This is a player that I think is getting identified by the NFL and marked for his draft status and not his production in the NFL. I think he's actually being a little bit downgraded by the fact that he was a Chief and the fact that maybe he played for a good defensive coach on a good team, and maybe they look at him and say that he might not be able to replicate what he did in Kansas City. But I just don't think that's fair. You know, this guy, in my opinion, is the best of the best. Like, really, truly, he is one of the best corners in football. He is 27 years old. He is in his prime. The last 2 years have been his best seasons of his career, and he does it all. Last season, he allowed a 56 passer rating. 56. A 51% completion percentage. And this is largely playing man coverage against the best receivers in the NFL. Whether it be Tyreek Hill, whether it be Brandon Ayuk in the Super Bowl, whoever it may be along the line, this is a guy that has been locking people down. Left, right, and center. Right? Stephon Diggs, another one. Like, yeah, Trent McDuffie's a good player, but what really made the Chiefs special on defense last year was that secondary, their ability to play zone or man, and especially press man coverage, and be able to disguise, knock receivers off their routes, be physical at the line of scrimmage, play nasty man coverage, and allow them to get after it up front with different blitz packages. Well, that's harder to do when you don't have great coverage in the back end, when you're not able to put a corner on a receiver and say, you got him. It's more difficult when you're having to shade towards a cornerback, or you're having to now, instead of two guys that can lock down receivers, you only have one. It changes the equation. It changes the math, which ultimately football is a game of math. How many resources can I put to the pass game? How many resources can I put to the run game? How many blockers do I have? All these things matter. How many receivers do I have? And ultimately, this is a player that changes the math of the NFL, changes the game for the Tennessee Titans. And I'm excited for Titans fans because they're getting a legitimate great player. L'Jarius Sneed is a great player, and they only had to give up a future third-round pick, a swap of sevenths, that is nothing, and then $19 million, which is probably what he would have gotten, on the free agent market. He might have gotten actually a little bit more when you consider, at least in my opinion, I would have been willing to give him Denzel Ward money, Jalen Ramsey money, an extra million. What? So to me, this is absurd. I don't understand. He played 1,260 snaps last year. 1,260. He was the 30th graded corner in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. The year before, he was 13th. In 2020, as a rookie, he was 33rd. In coverage grade, he was 29th. He played wide cornerback for 1,142 snaps. He is 6'1", 192, good size. What's holding him back here is the profile of being a 2024 round pick. I guarantee you, if he was a first round pick, if he had Trent McDuffie draft status, we would be talking about this guy as the best corner in the league without a doubt. But the fact that he was not drafted there, I think screams that, maybe people are just underrating him. I don't understand it. This guy does it all. Press coverage, zone coverage, man coverage, inside, outside, tackles well, blitzes. I mean, he had 3.5 sacks last year. This was the first season he never had a sack in his career, and that was because he played wide cornerback for basically all of his snaps. And don't forget it. People will praise Trent McDuffie till the cows come home, but the thing is, every single time, this guy was the guy playing the best receiver. Pretty much every single time. Unless the guy was aligned in the slot for 90% of his snaps, L'Jarius Sneed was playing the best receiver on the other team. And, that is extremely valuable, right? He had 2 interceptions this year. He's had 2 or more in each of his seasons. He's been largely extremely healthy throughout his career, especially 2021 through 2023, where he's missed 1 game. He missed 0 in 2022. He missed 2 in 2021. He had 14 passes defense this year, which was a career high. He had 78 tackles, which was second in his career. He's only played 4 seasons. And he fits basically every system. I really don't get this. I think the Chiefs should have figured out a way to keep him. I understand that this was likely going to happen for Kansas City, but I just don't understand the compensation. I think they look foolish here. I think this is a bad trade. I thought they would have gotten more for this guy. I just feel like he's more valuable than that. And maybe I'm ripping the Chiefs too hard for a player that it felt like they were always going to trade. So that's understandable. But I don't know, man. I think you find a way to keep one of the best corners in football, especially for the compensation that you were offered here. It just feels like you didn't really get enough. So we're first going to look at Tennessee and how Sneed helps their secondary. So Sneed is now going to be their number 1 corner. They're going to have Chidobe Awuzie as the number 2. That's a nice number 2 to have, who they signed this offseason. They've got Roger McCreary in the nickel position. Roger McCreary is a pretty good player, especially at nickel. They've got Amani Hooker at safety, who's pretty solid. Elijah Molden, we'll see how he does at safety this year. They still have Caleb Farley. I don't know how much he's going to offer the team, and Trey Avery as depth pieces. Of course, you know, their front seven still has Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, but they do need work in the front seven. But, man, they have made big-time moves. Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Lloyd Cushenberry, Tony Pollard, Mason Rudolph. I'm just kidding. No, this is Mason Rudolph. But if I was a Titans fan, like if the Patriots would have done this, I would have been elated. Like the Patriots had the same amount of cap, basically. They actually had more than Tennessee. And yet Tennessee has been the team to spend and go out there and get a big-time corner, a big-time receiver, a talented running back, you know, another corner that can help them. And they felt like they were even further away than the Patriots, you know, based on their roster talent. So it is a little puzzling why they have kind of gone all in for this year. Maybe they like really believe in Will Levis, which we'll see, I guess. But they had to spend their money, right? And that's kind of why I'm frustrated about the Patriots, for sure. But man, I just think Titans fans should be pumped because they're getting a great player. And they're going to be a much better team in the passing game this year. You look at who they now have at receiver, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. You now look at who they have at corner, Chidobe Awuzie, and now L'Jarius Sneed. They've got talent on the perimeter, man. They still got to work on their D-line and their O-line a little bit, but the draft will certainly help. I mean, Sneed is an awesome player. He's been one of my favorite corners in football. I just can't say enough about this guy. I think he's phenomenal. Like, I think this is ridiculous. Like, I think the Chiefs are getting absolutely robbed. Like, I think they are getting robbed. I don't often come on here and talk like this. You guys know me. I'm usually pretty positive for both sides or understanding for both sides. This just doesn't really feel right. Like, this just feels like this team got absolutely robbed. I don't understand it. You know, this season, let's take a look at his advanced statistics. L'Jarius Sneed, that is. So, L'Jarius Sneed. Let's see if we can get some good stats here. Gronk spiked the like button, guys, if you haven't already. So, Sneed ranked 11th in reception percentage allowed at 52%. He did have a lot of penalties this year. Only 6 were accepted. That's still a lot. I think that includes the playoffs, though, to be fair. His yards per reception allowed, despite playing the best receivers in football, was only slightly above 10 at 10.3. That was 34th in football. Yards after catch, he allowed 216 yards into his coverage after the catch. Certainly not bad. His forced incompletions. Let's see if we can find it. He was tied for first, 19. And this is a guy that's not even thrown at that much. 12 pass breakups, 66 passer rating according to PFF, which was 6th in the NFL, behind Jalen Johnson, Deron Bland because of all the interceptions, Jalen Ramsey, Martin Emerson, Charvarius Ward, L'Jarius Sneed. So he's in line with all the other guys that are making all the $20 million, right? Then you look at snap per reception allowed. He was at 14, which is 18th in the league. All these numbers are top 20. In pass play tackling, he was 14th in the league, 17 tackles, resulting in a negative play for the offense. I really, like, statistically, there's just no question this guy is awesome, right? Last year, let's see if we can find anything on him from last year. Last season, 2022, that is. He graded 17th in pass coverage grade. He had 5 penalties, 0 accepted. He did allow a higher completion percentage at 70.5, which was not great. We'll have to check if he played in the slot or not, because that would obviously help the reception percentage. He did allow 800 yards, but when you look at the yards per reception, he was 8th in the NFL at yards per reception allowed at 9.2. So he allowed a lot of yards, but really not on like successful downfield plays. He had 10 forced incompletions, which ranked 20th He had, I mean, just like all the stats. It doesn't make sense to me. Pass breakups. Let's see where he ranked on that one. He had 8, tied for 22nd. He allowed a 91.6 passer rating according to Pro Football Focus. He had a 5.8 snap per target rate, which was about average. Let's see. Sneed. He had 26 pass play stops, which was first in the NFL. So there you go. Shows his versatility, right? He's an excellent tackler. He's opportunistic. He's a playmaker. He's also great in single coverage. It is rare to get that combination. And I guarantee you when we look at 2022, he played more slot than he did out wide, just based on the statistics. I thought he played out wide quite a bit last year as well, with McDuffie coming to town. I think they made the shift late in the year. So, according to PFF, L'Jarius Sneed played 378 coverage snaps in the slot in 2022, which was 7th in the NFL. So there you go. He also allowed a yards per snap of 1.10, which was tied for 16th in the NFL. A passer rating from the nickel of 97.7. He only allowed 2 touchdowns and had 1 interception. 2020, 2021, you can go back and look at his stats, but he was largely a nickel player, right? Again, in 2021, he had 456 snaps in the slot, which was 6th in the NFL. So he was largely a nickel until last year, where he played a majority out wide and McDuffie played a majority in the nickel. So with the change in role, he actually became a better player. So that's something to note as well, which it does feel like he'll play a majority of his snaps out wide. So, man, I think this is a great move by the Titans. I think that's self-explanatory at this point, and I'm a little confused as to why the Chiefs only got what they got. And to get him for that, a 3rd round next year, a swap of 7s, and then only 19 per year feels like a bargain for the Titans for one of the best corners in the league. And yeah, we'll see what the Chiefs are able to do to replenish their secondary. I don't think their secondary is bad by any means without Sneed, but I definitely think without Mike Edwards, without Sneed now, it's definitely not the same. They definitely have to go back to the drawing board and cook something up, potentially in the draft. But yeah, a lot of pressure on McDuffie and these other guys to step up into bigger roles in 2024 as they're trying to three-peat. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thank you for watching. Peace.